Jonathan Saenz is the president of Texas Values, a nonprofit group dedicated to preserving and advancing a culture of family values in the state of Texas. Texas Values is the family policy council within the Family Policy Alliance network, and they are our strategic allies for our work in Texas specifically. They do extensive work in Austin and empowering Christians to advocate for pro-family, pro-life, and pro-religious liberty in the Lone Star State. Prior to leading Texas Values, Jonathan headed the First Liberty Institute offices at the Texas Capitol in Austin. Jonathan received his law degree from the University of Houston Law Center and is a sought-after speaker and radio host. Jonathan has worked tirelessly to protect marriage between one man and one woman. In 2015, Jonathan was the leading statewide voice in Texas that helped defeat the dangerous LGBT Houston bathroom ordinance. We're so grateful for all that Jonathan has done and is doing for families in Texas. And we're thankful for this partnership as we empower Christians together to pray, vote, and engage. Please welcome Jonathan Saenz to the Christians Engaged Conference.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? We're good? Great to see y'all today. Thanks for having me a part of this event. Bunny and I have been friends for a long time, and other members of the team. And so, I got my start in this type of work for faith, family, and freedom professionally as an advocate in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. Many of y'all may know I worked with Kelly Shackelford at First Liberty Institute for many years, and then he helped me start Texas Values and serves on our board. And so I owe a lot to this community and giving me that opportunity. There are turning points we have sometime in our lives that we never forget, right? And I remember the opportunity and the driving up from the Houston area where I was practicing law at the time, and having that interview with Kelly and the team was, just something that I was so excited about. But I was taught when you get an opportunity, you don't let go of it. So when I did get that opportunity and I was offered the position, I was ready to go. But God had a lot in store. But I owe a lot to this community and people around this area for giving me that chance to do that. And I'm going to continue to serve in many ways and give back to the state of Texas, but also our country. Fifth generation Texan. So I've lived in Texas all my life. Both sides of my family are from the Texas area in the state, going back to almost when I think Texas was becoming a state. So pretty deep. So you could say I'm invested in the Lone Star State, okay? But I know that so much of the work that I do and the identity, the fabric, if you will, of our state has to do with core principles and values. So the organization I lead, Texas Values, we have three principles: faith, family, and freedom, right? We believe those have always been Texas values. If you look at the letter that Travis wrote in the Alamo, you will see these principles there. But for many years, people have been trying to take away those values from us, right? They want you to be ashamed to be a Texan, right? Now, you may not hear it as much as I do, since I live in the northwest part of Austin, and our office is literally across the street from the state capitol. But can you imagine that? Somebody from California trying to convince you that you should be ashamed to be a Texan. Good luck with that, okay? But they do. They try that. And it's not just redefining marriage, redefining so many things, trying to redefine and convince you that there's no real beginning of when life begins in the womb, trying to convince you that there's no difference between men and women, and that it's okay if women compete against men in sports, and a whole variety of issues. So I've dedicated my life to being involved in this work and really giving you an opportunity to be a voice. So a lot of the work I do primarily in my organization is focused on what happens at the state capitol, but we also get involved in local issues as well. And a phrase that I hear all the time at the Capitol is government belongs to those who show up. All right? I want to make sure you hear that. Government belongs to those who show up. All right? You're here today. You care about these issues. But we have some major things in front of us. We have a major election coming up. We have a legislative session coming up in January, right? That's why our office is across the street from the state capitol. We're the only faith, family, and freedom and pro-life organization that works on all those issues that has someone at the Capitol every day of the legislative session. That's 140 days. Sometimes it goes longer. Sometimes there's a special session, and there's more than 140 days. But that's what you have to have, because sadly, a lot of times the work we're involved in these issues, it's perception, right? There's a school board meeting. One side brings 100 people, the other side brings one. You're like, well, I guess that's kind of how this issue is, right? You can imagine in Austin, a lot of times folks that disagree with our values, there's sort of, many of them live around that area. It's easier for them to get over the Capitol. Some of our people, not as much, right? That perception can matter a lot. Considering the theme of this event and organization, pray, vote, engage, I am not a pastor, but I do know a little bit about the Bible, and that fills me up all the time in the Word. So one of my favorite scriptures passed on to me from one of my mentors, Matthew Staver, who gave me my first internship in this career, because Kelly already had his interns that time when I was in school, Shackelford. So I went to Matt Staver, and he gave me my first opportunity while I was in law school to do some of this work. And in his book, at the beginning of his book, Faith and Freedom, there's a scripture verse from Proverbs 18:17. And what it says is, he who presents his case first seems right until someone steps forth to challenge him. How many of y'all have been in that kind of circumstance where someone says something and you're like, wow, I guess that's true, no one says anything to respond and everyone's sort of wondering. I remember when I was a law student at the University of Houston, I sued my university to protect the free speech rights of the pro-life group I was leading. Any lawyers in the crowd that sued their university when they were a student? It can make it a little bit tougher for you to get that degree, okay, and that diploma. But listen, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any access to power, influence. But I went there hoping to have the skills and learn the things that I needed to learn to be an advocate. But I didn't realize I was going to be a client. I was looking to be the lawyer, right? Someone who represents someone. And here I found myself in the middle of a major lawsuit. The university was treating us different because of our pro-life groups. There was a young lady that came to one of the events, and she said to me, you don't have any reason or any rights to talk about the issue of life because you're a man. Oh, okay. College people say a lot of things, kids. And I said, okay, so let me make sure I understand. Not just me, but any man. Doesn't matter what age. No man. And I said, okay, even if they're in authority or power, no. Okay. I said, are you aware of the sex of the Supreme Court justices that decided Roe versus Wade? She was quiet. I said, they were all men. How is it that they had a right to make a decision on that issue and I don't? Right? Stopped in her tracks. Oh, that's different. You hear that? That's not. I just made my point and just left yours on the floor. But it takes that ability to be able to come back. Sometimes we're not ready for that, right? That's what we do at the Capitol. We train very hard to be ready for those circumstances. I want you to be in a position to do that as well. We have a new project, an educational program coming out called Texas Values University. It's not brick and mortar. It may be someday, but at this point, it's really an online program along the lines of what you see with On-Ramp for Civic Engagement and Rick Green with some of the series that he does through Patriot Academy. As a matter of fact, Rick Green is working with us. You're going to get religious freedom teaching from Kelly Shackelford and Hiram Sasser and myself about the Supreme Court, but also about state laws. Do you know that after the 2021 session, the government can never close a church for any reason, period, okay? So I've had the honor of every religious freedom law that's been passed the past 15 years. Myself and our organization have led that effort. We led the effort to pass the Texas Heartbeat Law and many other pro-life laws and so on. But you have to be equipped, right? We want to do that. We want to give you that information and knowledge so when someone says something like that doesn't make sense, you're prepared to respond. Or at least you can be engaged in the conversation. You can participate and have something thoughtful to say. But I make that point because Sometimes those things ring out there and you're like, wow, I'm not sure what to say as a result, and it's left other people thinking that maybe that's true. And sometimes it's designed that way, right? And we see that a lot. There's a lot of hostility sometimes making you be afraid. Gosh. I mean, we're in a church today. Is somebody going to file a lawsuit? Is the ACLU going to show up? Come and take it, I say. Bring it. I'm ready to go to court, okay? But for decades, churches have been sent letters during this time period by the Americans, Americans United for Separation Church and State, and many of those, because I've seen those letters. And what happens? The pastors get nervous and they don't say anything just to tell you there's an election. It's not true. We have a document. It's simply called Churches and Elections. I think it's part of the handout here. It's at our table. You can see the different things. There's so many freedoms that churches have, right? To have a candidate forum. I'm a part of one of them on October 15th. Prestonwood's having a huge candidate forum for Collin and Denton County candidates. Love to see y'all there. You invite everybody up, let them talk about their different views, and then go from there. The pastor can talk about what he believes, that you should look at the Bible and decide which candidates to vote for, that you absolutely should vote, and the Bible commands you to do that. But there's so much of an element of fear. And they've been working on us for a long time. And I just want to tell y'all something. One of the reasons I'm involved in this work is certainly because of Kelly Shackelford and other people that are tremendous leaders, but Jay Sekulow planted that original seed in me. Okay, when I heard his radio show, right? Everybody heard that show. It's a weekly, daily radio show. And Joe, and you know, he talks really fast, right? Jay Sekulow's just going. We need lawyers. You need to go to law school. And I heard, and I was like, I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Nobody in my family's ever been to law school. No one's got, graduate degrees in my family or whatever, but I'm going to figure it out with the Lord's guidance. But Jay Sekulow was working on a U.S. Supreme Court case, all right? And it was a very simple case in an airport having free speech rights. They were trying to take away rights and treat Christians differently. And he got to the Supreme Court and he asked a lawyer from the other side, why are y'all still fighting on this? This issue is very simple. It's already established law. And the guy told him point blank, because we and my client don't think Christians will fight back. That's the mindset. They take advantage of us so many times because we self-censor and because of our nature, right? We are loving and kind, and sometimes we turn the other cheek, but they will use that against us. So as we enter into one of the most important elections, less than 40 days away, and we get into that legislative session coming up in January, I want you to remember that. They're counting on you to be afraid and self-censor. Don't let them win. How many times does it say in the Bible to not be fearful? Be not afraid. It's one of the most common, if not one of the most phrases you'll see in all of the Bible, all right? We have an important role to play in society, in elections, all right? This is our state, this is our community. And is there anyone more powerful than a Christian that is going to be motivated and filled up by the Lord? Think about it. We believe in miracles, the God of miracles. What are we worried about with the ACLU and some of these other people? You have a responsibility with your neighbors, in your church, wherever you are. An election in my area in Cedar Park was decided by 4 votes a couple years ago. Do not think it cannot happen, all right? You have a tremendous responsibilities. We have some of the greatest freedoms we've ever had. Don't just celebrate the victories. Go out there and use the freedom. And if anybody comes at you, give me a call. We got your back. God bless y'all, and God bless Texas. All right.